Now, the Target 12 investigators once again going in depth on the housing crisis. And this week, Target 12 has been digging deep into the numbers cited by state leaders to discuss the issue and discovering some problems. Here to break it all down is Target 12 investigator Ted Nisi, who's been working for months on this with Target 12's Eli Sherman. So, Ted, this whole reporting project was spurred by questions you had about the talking point we hear all the time.
Yes, Kate, anytime there's a big news conference on housing, you know this, we'll hear local leaders cite the fact that Rhode Island is dead last in housing production among the 50 states when you look at the numbers per capita. And their source for that is federal data from the U.S. Census Bureau, which gathers the numbers for the whole country. But when Eli and I started to examine the numbers more closely, we did see some questionable statistics from individual communities. So Eli decided to take a closer look at the city of Providence. According to the U.S. Census data, Providence only permitted 5 new housing units in all of 2023. Very low number for such a big city. But sure enough, when Eli worked with city officials to recrunch the numbers, he found the city actually permitted 331 housing units in 2023, which means the federal data undercounted Providence by 98%.
What?
I know. It's very surprising.
So it's obviously a huge miss. What should people make of this?
Well, that's part of what we want to know. Certainly, first, the federal data may be way off, but nobody would argue Rhode Island doesn't have a housing problem. You just have to look at prices for homes and apartments for that. We did go to one of the state's most respected experts on the topic, Brenda Clement of Housing Works RI over at Roger Williams University, and she's among those who think this does matter.
Why is it important for us to get a baseline of understanding exactly how much we're building and where?
Well, because we won't know if we succeed, right? If we don't know where we've started, you need in order to meet a goal, you need a starting point and an ending point. And when we don't have good, consistent data to say where we are actually starting, we really don't know how big the deficit is, right? Or how big the gap is that we need to fill, and where and in what types of units we need to fill.
So I guess the good news is you also found the state is taking action on its own to get more reliable information.
Yes, the new Rhode Island Housing Department is doing its own annual survey of cities and towns so they can get the data directly from them. And they've been finding the same things Eli did. According to the U.S. Census data, Rhode Island permitted 1,757 new housing units in 2024. But according to this new Rhode Island Housing Department data, the state actually permitted 2,655 units. Now, not as dramatic an undercount as in Providence, but still, I'd say, Kate, a substantial amount for a small state. And I just add that one of the reasons this is important is having reliable data is going to probably become even more important now that Governor McKee has put out that new Housing 2030 plan. And under that, the state wants to build 15,000 new units by the end of the decade, with individual cities and towns having their own production targets. So we really want to understand what's going on with this.
Makes you wonder if the other states are wrong too, right? With the federal data.
This is the thing you learn in this. The data's great as long as it's right, but you got to take a second look at it.
All right, Target 12 always digging into the details to fact check what's really going on. Ted, as always, good to have you in this morning.
Good to be here.